countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I swear, the nerve of those guys. First, closing the shop early for the holidays, and second, actually investing in a new deadbolt. You'd think after being a part of who knows how many Last Comic Shop podcasts, they would give yours truly, Mr. Mikey Wood, a friggin' key already. Man, it's dark in here. Where's that lever that opens up the archives? It's under the counter, I think. There we go. Why they put the laundry room next to the archives is beyond me. Oh man, I can't see anything down here. Ow! Light switch. Yeah, here we go.
Welcome to the Archive Rama 3000 digital security system. T-minus 5 seconds to aggressive termination of intruder.
Uh-oh, wrong switch.
Voice print recognized. Welcome, Michael Wood. Query: are you here to use the laundry facilities?
Yeah, things are getting a little funky.
Query: records indicate purchase of washing machine in Wood residence recently. Is use of laundry facilities necessary?
The water pressure is better over here, plus the free fabric sheets.
Understood. Query: would Mr. Wood like to listen to a pre-recorded episode of the Last Comic Shop podcast while he waits?
That would be awesome. What do you got in the hopper?
Loading review. Giant Days Volume 1 by John Allison, Whitney Koga, and Lissa Treiman.
Oh, an Eisner winner.
So what I had, it was a picture of the hot dog style guide from around the world according to Food Republic. And the Philippine dog was a bright red notch dog served with banana ketchup, rice, and a fried egg.
Yeah.
Have you ever had this?
Well, it's not like it's on a hot dog, so you're eating it like on a plate. Pile of rice, you get a hot dog. It's like you're eating it like it's a sausage.
You're right. This picture shows it like a platter.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like bangers and mash.
Yes, it's a breakfast thing.
Hot dogs are breakfast food?
Yeah, buddy.
I kind of want to go to the Philippines.
Why do we always talk about food on this show?
I know, right? People are going to think we're
food
foodies.
And condiments.
But there's been people like Mikey Wood. He sincerely said he'd want Chad to be my personal food gourmet because his ideas for like ricotta cheese and the mozzarella cheese, he's like, Chad has all the good ideas.
I'm telling you, it turns your pizza into a little mini lasagna. And, like, who doesn't want lasagna pizza?
That is so true. We've been ordering pizza a lot at work. It's really good.
I think ricotta's only bad if you think about it.
Yes.
If you don't know that it's in there, it's a delight.
Well, I'm Andy Larson, the host with the most. Welcome back to this week's program. Again, I've got my regular co-host, Chad Smith.
I'm a lot like ricotta. As long as you don't realize I'm here,
it's okay.
I feel like I'm delightful and easy to be around.
And also joining me on today's program is my wife, Nicole Larson.
Hello.
Howdy.
What kind of cheese are you?
Sharp cheddar.
Ooh, yeah, you are. You do have a tang to you.
There you go.
And we also have my cousin all the way from the Philippines, J.A. Scott.
Now I really want to know all the Filipino things because they have hot dogs for breakfast.
Absolutely. I don't know what cheese I would be.
No, you're probably like a Wainsleydale.
Is that the stinky cheese?
No.
Or like a Wisconsin cheese curd.
Wainsleydale is a British cheese that is very mild.
I'm very mild and British.
Want
to be.
I just like it because of the name. It's so fun to say. It's like Wainsleydale.
It is. It's a good name. It's got a lot of syllables in it.
Let's get that for our next charcuterie board.
Yeah.
Is it more fun to say than Havarti? Because I always feel like you're having a party when you have Havarti.
I think we have some Havarti in the fridge. I can get you some.
We're gonna go and party. We bust out the Havarti. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Wainsleydale.
In any case, today on today's program, we're going to be talking about an Eisner Award-winning book because we're a comic book podcast. So not to talk about an Eisner Award winner is kind of defeating the purpose of us educating people on this program. Plus the fact that it is Nicole's pick. So I hope that you enjoy it.
This is the only pick I get?
Yeah. And it turns out that not only was this book win for the best continuing series, but it was also nominated in 2018 and also in 2016. And what book is that, Chad?
It's called Giant Days. It's created and written by John Allison, illustrated by Lissa Treiman, I might be pronouncing that wrong, but that's what I do. And then she did chapters 1 through 6, and then Max Sarin did chapters 7 through 8. We read volumes 1 and 2 of the Giant Days here.
There are many volumes.
Yes, I think they're already up to, I don't know, a volume 8 or 9 or something, even more than that. It could be up to like 12 or something.
And I was going to say, too, this came out of the Boom Studios Boombox affiliate there.
Boom does some really good books. They're a comic book company that doesn't get enough DAP. That they put out the DAP. They say it on Pardon the Interruption. Shut up.
What does that mean? They say it on this show.
I don't know, whatever. But anyways, they put out the Darkwing Duck series, which I love. They put out all the Planet of the Apes series that I love. They also came out with there was another one, like Lawn Kids or...
Lumberjanes?
No, not Lumberjanes. I'm serious. There's a book, Grass Kings, not Lawn Dogs.
You're crazy.
Grass Kings. But Boom does a lot of really good books. J.A., why don't you do the 10-cent synopsis?
I'm bad at this, so I'm happy someone else.
Okay. It's a comic book that focuses mainly on 3 protagonist females who are in college in England somewhere. Their trials and tribulations of going through school as freshmen, or fresh person, please. And how they sort of go through that time of their life.
It is really, because it's like kind of like a slice of life kind of thing. Like, it's very similar to Strangers in Paradise, I feel. Like, kind of like, number one, humorous. It has a very humorous bent to it. About these 3 young ladies that are kind of traversing their freshman year at college.
Are they freshmen?
I didn't know that they were freshmen, but I might have been thrown off that they were drinking. I don't know if it's a drinking age still younger.
It's 18 and 18.
Yeah, so maybe that's why I was thrown off and thought that they were older. But each issue really is kind of its own story. I mean, there's some, obviously the characters are the same, but like the stories don't necessarily like flow into each other. It's almost like you do just take like a snapshot and then it like zooms forward a little bit and then you get another snapshot.
Yeah.
That's at least how I felt each of the issues was.
Yeah, the only thing that seems to be is ongoing are the characters. Like, I mean,
some of the relationships
you're introduced to some of the characters, and they kind of build over issue after issue after
I was going to say, it's very much so a character study for each of the 3 main protagonists. You have the Daisy Wooten, who's the naive kid who, on the first page, she's 50% here and 100% not ready for this mean old world. And then the Esther de Groot is pale and interesting, maybe too interesting.
Yeah,
she's the one. She's the beauty of the group.
But she's also got that the drama aura that surrounds her. It doesn't seem like anywhere she goes, like she just stirs up trouble and kicks beehives, unintentionally, actually. She, I guess sometimes she does it, but other times she doesn't even know that she's doing it.
And then the other character is Susan Ptolemy, who is described as a human common sense silo. Without me, they'd probably be both dead or in jail or dead and in jail.
Yeah. Of all the characters in this book, I would say that she's the primary protagonist. Yeah. Like, she's your audience in. Like, she's the one you're supposed to, like, relate with and identify with the most. Like, the other 2 characters are kind of like her wacky sidekicks.
Yeah, they're kind of more extreme, I guess, like, in terms of their character. Like, the very, very naive and then the very kind of kooky crazy.
But it's funny, too, because so much of this, it felt like being back in college. And everybody sees themselves as the hero of their own tale. And whenever you think of the people that you knew and associated with, you always, like, oh, I have this one friend who's wacky, who brings the trouble, but thank goodness they have me around to keep them sane.
Right.
Oh, this kid over here, boy, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
If they didn't have me to get them out of these jams. And so I could very much so relate to these characters. Just how they're presented, it really had that feel of whenever you're tossed into college and you're meeting all these new people, and like you make bonds almost instantaneously, and for some reason those bonds are the strongest bonds as you go throughout your college years.
Absolutely. I mean, I made my bond with Chad, and here we are doing, 20 years later?
Yeah.
We're doing a podcast together. I mean, but yeah, he just happened to walk into my dorm room one day and was like, oh, you like Bob Dylan?
I heard Bob Dylan from the outside, and I was like, okay.
I didn't know you were a fellow Bob Dylan person.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. And then I took Chad up to Juniata College, where he met my cousin J.A., and everyone thought that Chad actually went to that college because he was seen so often there.
Well, see, maybe I have a different perspective, and maybe, I don't know, because I'm just thinking, I remember forming those bonds, and then I was going to say, until they stab you in the back. Maybe I'm really jaded. I hope no one I knew in college is listening to this, but I'm not going to name names or anything like that.
But. Oh, don't worry, that happened too.
Well, I know something happened with you guys over butter, so I don't know.
That's
We're not going to go there.
Well, that's the thing about these, but it's true to what Chad said, which is again, maybe Susan is the protagonist. At least I thought she was, but honestly, some of the things that are happening to her, I could see the other characters being like, boy, she's always getting into trouble. Like that one issue where she goes back to her hometown and the one person wants to throw her off a roof.
Yeah.
They have to come and save her bacon at that point. It's a good give and take within this friendship. And we haven't even started talking about my favorite character in this book, McGraw.
That would be your favorite.
Oh,
McGraw.
You just like him for his mustache.
And the scene where he takes the key out and he rubs it with the pencil and he's like, it's a natural lubricant or something like that. And I was just like, dang, son. Because he seems like he's 1,000 years older than everybody in that book.
Andrew totally has a man crush on
I do. McGraw was...
I could have seen that a mile away.
Those whiskers, they beckoned me like sirens to a shore.
I liked when he pulled out the multi-tool.
Yes.
He's like, it's 12 tools in one, and the girl is so impressed, and she's like, oh, this is great you have that. It's like, well, it does 12 things very badly.
It did remind me when he held it up, I thought of the magic screwdriver. Not magic, sorry.
Oh, the sonic screwdriver.
Sonic.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, let's go around and get our initial thoughts, and we're going to start with J.A. J.A., what did you think of Giant Days?
I went in totally cold. I had no inkling of what kind of book it was going to be at all. I didn't. So, I opened it, and it could have been a book about giants. It took a while for me to get into it and get into the flow of the narrative, but probably after about chapter 3, I felt invested enough in it that I wanted to find out more what was going on. So it was one of those books that sort of takes a while to grow, at least on me it did. If I had just been given chapter 1 and then nothing else, I probably wouldn't have gone searching to read more of it. But by chapter 3, I was glad to have more to read and glad that we had 2 volumes to go through as opposed to just, 5 or 6 books. I think it's one of those that grows on you, and I can see why it won Best Continuing Series, because the stories, while there are snapshots, they run together so well, and you're learning more about these characters and their arcs and their storylines. And, every book you read, it seems to grow and add complexity and color to the storylines, which makes it more interesting. I think it doesn't work if it's just a one-off.
Was there any particular character you liked or anything that reminded you of your college experience?
Not so much of my college experience. I was getting into the group character, the goth chick.
Okay.
Former goth chick, now not quite goth, but has all her old clothing. There's a storyline where she's sick and she can't figure out what to wear because she can't smell anything and she doesn't know if it's been washed. So she has to go back to her old clothing and ends up walking around like a dead zombie from the
yeah, she was wearing that kind of Victorian Halloween costume that she had. She actually had some really good issues. There's an issue in the second volume, I think it's issue 7 or 8, where she meets the older TA. She kind of falls, for him because he's an older guy or whatever, and she takes him back to.
It's not so much that he's older; it's that she's not supposed to be with him. Love forbidden.
Yes. Well, anyways, she's introduced, and she's trying to be herself or whatever, and she's trying to put up a good first impression to. Is that his parents? Is that who?
I thought it was just people in his circle.
Yeah,
his social circle.
Sure, yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh, you're embarrassing me. Stop talking." And she just completely just tore into him and left. It was really gratifying. I was like, this is awesome. This showed a lot of growth on her part, and from the beginning of the series where she was kind of pining after some dude that she lost or whatever, by that chapter I was like, ooh, good for you, Esther. You're an awesome person. I like you. Nicole, your initial thoughts.
So I kind of came up with 3 words that I have for this book, and I think that everyone's going to be probably a little bit surprised. And as you all have been talking, I've kind of changed the order in which I will present these words. So the word that was going to be third, but now I'll move to first, is tired. And I have it for 2 reasons. So I may not have liked this book a lot because I was too tired when I read it.
Okay.
So like Jay, I kind of felt like it took a lot to pull me into it, and I think I was just maybe literally too tired when I was reading it, because I would try to read it before bed. I'd get like a couple pages, and I'd like nod off, and then, you know, the next night I'd read a couple more, and so I don't feel like I ever really got invested. But the original reason that I was going to say tired is because I just didn't really feel it was anything new. I don't know, it just felt like something I'd heard before. I don't know, sometimes I go through these things, whether it's with novels or with TV shows, where like I can't just keep going through the same thing. Like I can't just have a different regurgitation of the same story. Yeah, and so like I need a break sometimes. So like sometimes I'll just read, and then I'm like, I need a break, because if I do another book that's similar too quickly to that, I won't enjoy it.
I'm equal but opposite.
You just keep going with the same thing. Okay.
I love me some tropes.
But so I don't know, I just didn't feel like there was really anything new to it. So that's tired.
Okay.
My second word was going to be shallow. I didn't feel it had much depth to it at all. I just found it was kind of stupid stories.
Okay.
I didn't really find it humorous. Maybe I'm not British enough to get the humor. I'm not sure. And again, maybe that goes back to the first word, that I was really just too tired to read it. But my third word would just be juvenile. I just thought it was really young. I didn't think it really dealt with issues that I would anticipate for college age. Like it seemed, I don't know, just kind of like lovey-dovey stuff, and like I think there could have been a lot more depth to it that way too. Like there's a lot more serious issues that could have been dealt with, but playfully.
Okay.
I don't know. We're only 2 volumes into it. It is a longer series. Maybe they get into it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right,
college kids, why aren't they trying to fix world peace or something? You know, that's what everyone does in college.
But these aren't those kind of kids.
They kind of touched on that, but I don't know. It just seemed
These are a bunch of goofs.
very mundane, like problems that they were having.
The one girl's trying to find herself, and all she watches is Friday Night Lights. You didn't think that was clever? I did.
Well, I thought there was some clever stuff, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, even their relationships weren't as complex as they probably would be in real life.
All right, Chad, your initial thoughts.
I'm very excited about this for a couple of reasons. One, I want to go on record by saying that traditionally, when Nicole is on the show, I absolutely respect Nicole's opinion, and I think she's very thoughtful, and I think she brings a lot to the table every time.
He's going to disagree with me, isn't he?
I know, right?
That's okay.
And this time, I totally disagree.
I know. Well, that's why I tried to change my word, because at the beginning you said all about this character development. I'm like, I didn't get it. But like I said, I might have just been asleep.
Well, no, it's funny because I feel like my reaction was such the equal but opposite reaction for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
First off, start with the tired thing. This is one of those weeks, and this is kind of inside baseball. Sometimes Andy makes me do like 2 or 3 books in a week.
Right.
For read piles.
Yeah.
And this is a week we had 2 read piles. I just read 200 pages of another like in-depth like 80s like comic, and then I was like, oh crap, I have this other one I have to do. We record on Saturdays. Friday night, 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to read the second one. And so, like, I totally went in not knowing anything about this book.
I think that is fair to say. No one knew really anything about this book other than I had seen the title, and I had, like,
it had nothing to do with giants. I was very surprised.
No, and I, like, that's another thing, too, young lady. That made me crazy. Like, I feel like on the podcast, when we talk about comic book stuff, I know stuff. That's my thing. Like, I know little tidbits of trivia. I knew nothing about this book. I knew nothing about these creators. I knew nothing about these names. I didn't know anything going in.
Have you ever heard of it at all?
Never, ever. And I'm sure I may have read the name, but it never resonated, never stuck. There was nothing here.
See, what would you guys do without me?
I know, right? Without you.
Anywho.
And so, but the one thing that's different personality-wise between you and me is that I love coming-of-age stories.
Okay.
I could read Catcher in the Rye every year and find different things about it to love.
That's the English teacher.
That's part of it. But like all the variations on Catcher in the Rye, Perks of Being a Wallflower, and like all those literary tropes, I love people finding themselves. I love people, coming and growing into the person that they are going to become. And that's what I feel like this series is. You have these three young ladies, and then you have the boy that loves Esther, but he's been friend zoned, for lack of a better term. You have the other guy, the manly man, who ends up dating Susan.
Right, McGraw.
The guy everybody's love. McGraw is the best. That mustache, respect it.
But so much of this just reminded me of my friends and my own personal experiences. Like, you have that one friend who's so naive. You're watching Daisy, like, become an adult and, like, go through all these different, like, awkward experiences.
Right.
Whether it's the whole ASMR thing, or whether it is, she kisses her first boy and then realizes, oh, maybe that's not for me.
Right.
She's just going through all these awkward experiences, and we're just there as flies on the wall watching. There's something about that process of watching people come into their own that I find fascinating. And the fact that we had female protagonists, it was different for me because I'm not a female, and so I can only imagine like the world that we live in and the proliferation of all the laddie websites, for lack of a better term, like the Maxims, or I don't know what the kids are into now. But you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
about. Those websites, like, here's the top 10 list of bikini girls.
Wasn't that how Facebook started?
Having to be a female and deal with those things and, like, living in the world. It was really neat for me to see things from the other perspective. There was so much of this that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the characters' personalities. I had my friend that I thought was my Esther, who always got themselves into trouble in wacky situations, and, like, I could totally relate. But it's all those experiences, and then you factor in all the tiny life stuff, like the week that everybody gets sick. And they're all passing colds around. Like,
I did like the finals part, the part with what's her name, Van Sloot, the goth girl, like Esther. She didn't study, and she's like praying to God that she survives. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, she hadn't been to a lecture.
Hadn't been to class in like 3 months. That was me.
I could put you that.
I once had a teacher mail me to my student mailbox a course withdrawal form already signed.
Snap!
Yikes!
Wow!
That's not passive aggressive. That's aggressive aggressive.
Actually, that was pretty nice if you think about it, because they could have just let you fail the course.
That's true. I know that I just didn't schedule any classes before, noon? I knew it was never going to happen.
See, you and I are totally opposite. I was already up for swim practice. All my classes were 8, 9, or 10, and then I went back and took a nap.
And see, I was right in the middle. I scheduled classes for 8 a.m. and regretted it every time. Like, why am I here? Oh, God!
But you got up and
why are there these hay bales in our apartment?
Oh, God. I hate that. So many inside jokes.
These hay bales. Get these hay bales out of our apartment.
But that's what I thought this was like for the most part, except for the story whenever they go back to the girl's house and somebody tries to throw her off the roof.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird one.
I thought that was out of place. But for the most part, I thoroughly enjoyed this. And the fact that I didn't see it coming, the fact that I didn't know who these creators were, the fact that this was totally new, that I went in blind, and, like, I started at 11 o'clock on a Friday, and I stayed up, and I read through both books, and I got to the end of the second one, and I was like, damn!
So I'm going to go on record that it's very interesting to me that I have picked 2 kind of books that are quote-unquote girl books, we'll say. Like, that's kind of a little sexist, but...
That's a lot sexist.
It's a lot sexist, but I mean, so they're, either written or drawn by girls, or have the main characters are females. And I have not liked either of them. But
I was going to say, I wonder if for Giant Days, is it just the way you consumed it? Because like Chad, I got an email from Andy saying, make sure you've read Giant Days. We're going to talk about it tonight. And I was like, oh, yeah, I need to read that. So I just read it in one sitting. And
yeah, maybe
having, so it wasn't like, oh, what's going on? I have to try to get back into it. Those first couple of chapters where it was a bit painful or hard to, not a slog.
But you got through it kind of fast.
Yeah, and then I kept reading. So maybe it's just the way you consumed it.
I like the quirky characters enough that They hooked me right away.
Well, anyways, maybe I'm just issuing my own biases from college, which I've tried to block most of.
Yeah, I think this will be my initial thoughts and my grade. And honestly, I'm going to give this book a definite B. I think it was a B book for sure. And the reason why I say this is because if you did really enjoy college, this kind of slice of life will really impact you a little bit. Again, I went to college with Chad, and I found myself saying, like, yeah, these are the kind of ladies, actually, that Chad and I would have hung out with, because they seem super interesting. Like, we hung out with some interesting people at college.
And we, make no mistake about it, we were not the popular kids, at the fraternity mixers. Like, we were off the beaten path. And these are the girls that you meet, the off the beaten path.
Exactly. That was why I thought these would be people that we would have really, because they had interesting personalities. They wouldn't be people that would be in sororities or whatever. They would have been, not that there's anything wrong with that, but they had a different point of view. And I'll be very honest, I also agreed with J.A. that the first two issues, I want to say, were kind of like C-ish. Like, I didn't know about the series until I think the one about the flu. Then I was just like, oh, well, I went through this. This is super good. And then by the time McGraw and Susan hooked up, I was like, yes, now I've got my couple that kind of like everything kind of revolves around. They're trying to keep the relationship a secret, but then it does not. And everything just started to flow. And by the end of it, I found myself wanting to read Volume 3 and Volume 4 and Volume 5 and just finding out what happens with these characters from here. Because I would really love to read the volumes that basically won them the Eisner. This is 2016 when it first came out, and they were nominated for it, right? I want to see what the stories that actually finally won them the award. So that's why I will continue to read Giant Days going forward. But yeah. I had a super interesting college life, and that's why I love this book. J.A., your grade?
I would say it's a B-. And that's just on the two books that we read, of course.
What did you think of the art, J.A., as somebody that likes the art?
I thought it was nice. I thought it fit the storyline. It's kind of quirky stories about college. The art was quirky. I liked that it was a bit more loosey and freeform. I felt sort of like I was reading like a Sunday comic strip in the paper, like sort of Doonesbury meets
Better or Worse.
Yes, that's it. Yes. Better or Worse meets Doonesbury meets PCU.
All right, Nicole, grade.
I'll give it I don't know, I guess I'll go B- too. Maybe an incomplete, because I feel like I didn't completely read it.
You always get these incompletes.
Yeah, because I don't like not liking something. That actually really bothers me.
It's okay to say.
I think she's going to give it a signed course withdrawal.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, like I said, sometimes I get in these moods, and Andrew can attest, like, you can't, I won't put a book down. I mean, literally, I just, like, walk around with a book doing, like, reading constantly, and then sometimes I just take a break and I'm just vegging and, like, watching TV more, and I feel like I've been in a vegging mode, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in the mood. And I was too tired. I did work a lot this week.
Oh, that's crazy. That a B-, like, so is this a book you'd go back to and reread in a little while? Or read more volumes on?
Volume 3.
It might be something that I read while I'm sitting with Johanna. She's going to bed.
Okay.
If I'm not being forced to read.
Because the way that you described it, I honestly thought you were going to give it a D. Or a C- at least. A B+ or B- is like, that's...
I'm too nice, though. I mean, that was my problem when I was writing.
Stick by your guns.
So, I mean, I'm too nice.
Okay.
I would not be a good teacher, Chad. I'd be way too nice.
All right, Chad, you're up.
The nice teachers don't get the parent emails. Anyway, so, as I alluded to earlier, this scratches a lot of itches that, like, I personally like. I enjoy coming-of-age stories in all their varied forms. So that was an itch that it scratched. I thought 2 of the 3 characters were really interesting and entertaining. My only issue, I didn't like the art change, by the way.
Okay.
When they brought on the new artist for the 2 issues, I hope it goes back to the Lissa Treiman.
Yeah.
Just because I really enjoyed... I don't know whether it was because that was what was established, but I really enjoyed her work on the characters more so. Like, the second artist seemed a little too polished.
Okay.
But my other complaint about the book would just be with Susan, where I feel like she's too cool. I would rather have a more fallible main character. Like, So she hangs out and smokes cigarettes and keeps everybody grounded, and she's also a junior detective and going to be a doctor, and has the perfect boyfriend ever who can get people out of any jam. She's like the Batman of this series.
Okay.
And it's like, she shouldn't be that qualified.
All right.
At this point in her life. You know what I mean? And maybe that's a failing on my part, because like I was nowhere near that capable of a human being and have things worked out so much. But as far as like putting you in a place, this put me back in my college dorm room.
Yeah.
You know, freshman year. And so without naming names, like some of these characters, like I know these characters. I'm friends with these characters. At least one of these characters I don't talk to anymore. I know these people in various forms, and so for that I'll give it a B+. I definitely want to read volumes 3 and whatever moving forward. Is it something that would be at the top of my list? Probably not, just because as far as like the comics go, this isn't traditionally my jam. Like, this is definitely outside the realm of what we would normally read. But at the same time, as I'm trying to expand my horizons beyond the traditional fare, I thought this was a really fun, really pleasurable experience. And so, yeah, B+.
Cool.
I will say that this, and this is kind of the thing I look for comics, as I've talked about before, like getting into your guys' world of, you know, for example, Spider-Man is like near impossible for me to digest that much stuff. Like, I feel like some of these series are going to appeal to people like me who haven't really read comic books before, and it's something that's just a little bit more relatable, and again, doesn't have a 60-year history or 70 or 80 or whatever, however long Spider-Man's been around for.
Absolutely. No, it is a very approachable series. Like, there's comedy, there's relationships, it's things people can relate to. And so it's definitely something I think everybody should check out. If you don't think comic books are for you, check out Giant Days. That actually might be for you. Anyways.
Yeah, this is definitely something I'd keep in the back pocket to recommend for people that, you know, don't want to read about heroes and capes.
Hey, what happened to the show?
Protocols indicate commercial break is necessary to continue.
Oh, okay. We'll be right back with more Last Comic Shop podcast right after this. I gotta move my boxers over to the dryer anyway.
Hi, it's Carlo Calantuan, Last Comic Shop podcast listener and comic book tragic here in the Philippines. Mabuhay! When I'm in the US, I'm always on the lookout for a good deal on boards, bags, boxes, and all other manner of comic book related supplies. And that's why I love to go to bcwsupplies.com and use the promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off of all my orders. Not only do I get a discount on everything I buy at BCW, but I'm able to support the podcast when I use LCSPOD at checkout. So if you're in need of comic book supplies, head over to bcwsupplies.com and use the promo code LCSPOD. Oh, and guys, I'm still waiting for that Tressie review. Come on, when is it?
Hey, are you looking for your new favorite comic? Are you interested in epic fights, a career change, creating comics, and mental health? You have come to the right place. My name is Oscar Osorio, and up until a few months ago, I was working at a desk for a big company, until I burned out and decided to pursue my passion, comic books. It was the beginning of my new, better life. At least, that's what I thought. Turns out that doing what you love may involve newer mental health issues, worrying about getting money, feeling you're not enough, fear of disappointment, and more. So I combined these emotions with my love of superheroes and fan comics and turned it into my debut comic book, a never-ending adventure, the fantastic quest of an aspiring creator looking for an idea. Life on Soup, right now. So come with me as I embark on the never-ending adventure of creation.
You know what I think? This world we're in right now is the fairy tale. And what's really real is on the other side.
Ramsey, mechanic by day, aspiring comic book creator by night, went into the woods and tripped. He was bombarded by bizarre and mysterious glyphs that he drew into his sketch pad and onto the body of his muse, Regina.
Oh, groovy! Your art is crawling all over me.
Shit. What is going on with you?
What's going on with you? All of a sudden, you're a complete drip, baby. Maybe you need another limb to the head! Ah!
Bloom, written and created by Ted Sikora, with art by Butch Mappa.
How are you feeling, Ram Man?
You've never experienced a story so astonishing, so far out and away from the beaten path.
Where in the am I?
Blast off with Bloom, the origin of a prophet. Order yours at herotomorrow.com.
On the next second half of the show, we're going to be playing a game as we like to do. It's a game that we haven't played in months because we've come up with so many other games. But it was a game called Scenarios.
Pretty boring name, but
I know, right? Most of the good names for games have been taken. I can't call it like $10,000 Pyramid, for God's sakes.
That's true.
I mean, come on. Is there any game better than maybe Joker's Wild? Like, that's another good one. Price is Right. Win, Lose, or Draw. These are all good names for things.
All right, we'll just stick with Scenarios.
Moving
on.
Scenarios is a game in which we have a judge who comes up with a scenario, like who would be the best dentist? And what we have to do...
used that like 4 times today.
The scenario,
Nicole
and then puts it out
dentists.
to...
Anti-dentite.
So she's going to come up with these a scenario, and she's going to put it out to Chad and I and J.A., and we're going to have to come up with a comics-related character that we think best could fill the scenario, and then not only are we going to kind of say who it is, but we have a few moments to convince her why our answer is the best. And then at the end, she is going to be the judge, and she's going to award points. And so there's going to be...
I didn't know there were points involved.
Well, there's a point per round. So there's 5 rounds, and then whoever has the most points at the end of 5 rounds wins.
I thought I had to grade it on a scale to give you 7 points for that answer.
No, it's one winner per round. So it's whoever you think was the best. So it may not even be the best answer, but it was the one that Nicole thought was the best.
Well, it's kind of like Cards Against Humanity, right? Everyone else could think that one was really funny, but if the judge liked the one, they
exactly. It's reading Nicole too. By the way, I forgot to say, once you nominate somebody, you can't use that character for the rest of the game.
Yes.
All right. So, what is your first scenario, darling?
Well, so the theme of these scenarios.
Oh, you have a theme?
I have a theme.
Oh, look at you.
The theme is going to be, I don't want to say board games because they're not all board games, but
way to have a theme that does not
a game of games.
They're games because they're not all have an actual board with pieces.
It's not all Risk. It's also Pong and things like that.
So games.
Games.
A game
about
the game.
All right.
So the first scenario.
Number 1.
Right. So you are playing a game of Risk.
Ooh.
Well, obviously, who is your character, and what would their strategy be, and how would they win at Risk?
Okay.
There's really only one way to win at Risk.
Well, I know Andrew's is going to be, but I want to know why your character would choose to do that.
All right. So we're writing down our characters here. And I'm sure Nicole knows mine.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have wrote down something else.
Well, you should try to be creative. I'm looking for the story of why your character, how they think a certain way and why they would.
All right, I got mine.
I can go whenever.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right, who goes first?
We'll let our guest from across the world.
For this character, I really had to think about what is Risk. And Risk is a game about world conquering and world domination. And who better to take who can conquer the world and dominate than Galactus, because he would just eat the thing. So...
Very creative answer. I like it.
So you just roll up to the board game with some ketchup and a fork?
Yep.
Just be like, I'm carving up this board, just swallowing it whole.
Is digestion domination?
I think it's the ultimate form of domination.
when you shit out the world, I think that's pretty much dominating.
But then you're just left with a big pile.
Yes. A couple of plastic pieces that didn't digest.
Oh, boy. How did those pass through a system? Oh, rough.
Yikes.
Well, especially one of the little soldiers that has the bayonet with the...
Oh, golly. Says the man who eats the shells of the sunflower seeds.
They're not as sharp. All right, my guy is, of course, Dr. Doom. Because who else is going to be taking over the world other than Dr. Doom?
Is he going to start with Australia?
He should, because he's the master strategist, so he would understand the strategic advantage of having Australia.
By the way, if you ever play with Andrew, clearly
it's like Australia. It's a very small country, so starting there and then building out from there. But ultimately, he would win at Risk because he would convince everybody else that, hey, I am the best guy for the job, and it's easier to just go with me than fight against me. And, he wouldn't get stuck in a land war in Asia. That's only worth 7 points. Thank you very much. You don't go to Asia until the end. Please. It's all about Africa
you guys should
and
see
South
the
America.
the head motions Andrew.
All right. Well, anyways, Dr. Doom is the correct answer. Chad?
Okay. So Galactus chews things up and shits them out. Dr. Doom has his metallic charms. But really, the man you want for the job is Professor Charles Xavier.
Okay.
He's a master of mind control. And who better to start by taking Australia, but then use his mind control abilities to inspire chaos amongst everyone else? Who better to join up and collude with others and plant the seeds in their brains of, oh, this would be a good plan, and then double-cross them, and then double-cross the other guy, and then double-cross everyone again!
Oh, goodness.
And Professor X, the master manipulator, who behind the scenes, the guy whose legs don't work, what harm could he be? When meanwhile he's slowly manipulating everyone, because we all know that Professor X is the ultimate bad guy.
Oh, wow.
We all know that he's the guy out to manipulate and take control of all these things. Why is he still around?
Is he actually a bad guy?
According to Chad, him and Reed Richards should be actually in the bad guy tent.
Oh, I haven't read any X-Men because I didn't know he could mind control people.
That's his whole thing.
What's your take, J.A.? Is Professor X really a bad guy?
Ooh, I've never thought of it that way, but now that you mention it, a lot of what he does, him and Magneto, they're just propping up this false dichotomy.
It's true. They are pretty much the same side of a coin. They're not opposite sides.
And if you go back and look at the things that Professor Xavier has done, it's a lot of douchebaggery.
Oh, yeah, it is true. All right, who wins?
Well, I do find it interesting, and I guess maybe I was thinking of things in a different way. I was thinking more defensive. You guys were all on the offense,
That's how you got to be in Risk.
Oh, maybe I play it wrong, evidently. Sorry, it goes to JA because shit was involved. So.
Note to self: shit is involved.
Again.
Eating boards wins every time. Shit happens, and Nicole will vote for it. All right.
This is like Cards Against Humanity, man. Gotta play to your audience.
Even my corny jokes couldn't pass through that one.
Although I think I'm the one that came up with the shitting it out part.
All right. What's your next question?
Okay. I'm going to make it a little less serious than Risk, because Risk is a pretty serious game.
And it lasts a long time.
It does last a long time, unlike Andrew.
Wow! It's quality, not quantity. Just say that.
Anywho, charades.
Okay.
Who would win at charades? Who would be the best clue giver and or guesser? I guess you could play it either way.
All right.
Doot, 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 doot. This is your thinking music. Doot.
All right, I got mine. I'm good.
Chad, you're done.
Check.
Jay?
Andrew, stop
Yep.
counting. All right, so
I will go first this time.
you are not in charge, by the way, but yes, you may go.
Okay. So I would say the best person at charades would be Mr. Fantastic. Because he's so pliable, he could basically change his shape into anything that he would want. So he's like, walking a dog? Well, I'll just make a dog appear out of my arm, and look, there's the shape of the dog. You're going to guess right away. Oh, somebody playing tennis? I'll turn my hand into a tennis racket and be swatting an imaginary ball. He can basically make his body into any object, so of course he's going to be the best at making people guess what he's trying to do.
All right, Chadsters.
That's what I say to your Mr. Fantastic. The correct answer is Clayface. Specifically,
Who is Clayface?
Playing to your audience, Chad.
That's right. So the first Clayface, Basil Karlo, was a B-list actor who basically becomes this mud monster who can change his shape into any shape whatsoever.
So Reed Richards isn't the only one who's.
So not only does he have the pliability of Reed Richards, but he also has the B-list acting skills to convey whatever emotion, whatever charade.
I think it was Hagen that turned into the... I think Basil Karlo was just an actor. I'm going to call shenanigans on that. But anyways, go on.
What?
Yes. Matt Hagen was the guy that was that had the mud powers.
Clayface it is.
Clayface it is.
Clayface.
J.A.?
In these answers, we were all along the same vein of thought. I don't know if that's a really intelligent vein of thought or not. So I had originally thought, I should go with Sandman for similar reasons, the ability and properties to change his shape or body. And then I thought of somebody who's even better at that, and that would be the Impossible Man.
Oh, wow. She doesn't know who that is.
Yeah, I was going to say Andrew's reaction, and I'm like, okay. So
I might
explain
win
to
this.
me.
Go ahead and explain.
So he's a little green man, alien guy who can basically turn into anything he wants.
Yeah.
He can turn like his whole self into anything he wants.
Yes, he can make it like a cannon with a face.
He's very campy. He's like, I took a rocket to the moon. He turns into a rocket ship and blasts off.
And then hits the moon like from a trip to the moon.
I like that.
He's a little cone-headed imp guy.
All right, well, y'all just kind of came up with the same idea.
Yeah,
really.
So the person that came up with it first, and the guy you actually know.
You went first. That's
the guy you know.
You didn't come up with it first.
Guy you know. You don't know.
But Chad's has a little extra with the acting skills, so I'm going to go with Chad.
Huzzah!
Andrew should know that with me as the judge, I'm always biased against him winning.
Yikes. It's crazy. Mr. Fan, you didn't know about Clayface. And he said Basil Carlo. That wasn't even the right Clayface. Anyways, go on. What's the next one?
So next, let's turn to a game that I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with. I know us three here are, but Johnny, Andrew, I don't remember when you guys were visiting. Did the kids play Survive? That game where everyone's on the island and they have to get off with the boats and you can No?
Super good game.
Okay. So I'll explain the premise of the game just a little bit for John Andrew. And actually, for all of you out there, this is a great game to play with, like, youngish, middle-aged kids, like 7, 8, 9.
It's a great game to play with everyone. It's like my go-to board game.
It's super fun. So anyway, you're on a island, and essentially you have to get off this island and onto safe shores by getting onto boats and then avoiding sea creatures and getting chomped by sharks and tipped over by whales and completely devoured by sea serpents. At each turn, part of the island disappears, and eventually there will be a volcano, and at the end of that, then the game's over, and whoever has the most guys, which also have points on the bottom, the most points wins.
Okay.
So there's a lot of strategy that goes into this game because there's boats, and you can share boats, and, people obviously sometimes throw people overboard by steering said monsters into them and such. So my scenario, for you is, what would your strategy be for Survive with the superhero, or who it would be and how they would play?
Okay, fair enough. I think this one's...
John answers at a little disadvantage having not played this game.
I'm going to take Andy's answer.
All right.
But mine's better.
All right.
But Chad gets to go first.
Chad gets to go first.
Okay. So are you familiar with Namor the Submariner?
Yes.
So Namor would be my guy for a couple of reasons. One, he's a regal. He's the king of his underwater world.
It doesn't matter if the whole island's going to get blown up.
Give me time.
All right, keep going.
So, he is a mutant. He has mastery under the water. He's also a badass. He was the very first Marvel character that appeared in Marvel Comics #1, and he has continued throughout the Marvel Universe through today. And he is someone that he's been a good guy, he's been a bad guy, he's been a homeless guy.
So he plays it both ways.
He's been a businessman, he's been a hobo. He's very adaptable to whatever situation he's in, whether he's in the middle of a forest, whether he's on the beach, whether he's had the land beneath him shuttered, whether he's facing sharks. It doesn't matter to Namor. Namor can handle all that and more. And so that's why Namor is the most adept at being able to survive this survival-based game.
All right.
Okay, John Andrew, do you have an answer?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Batman.
Okay. I'm picturing Batman on this tropical island, and that's quite funny in my head.
Is it Adam West Batman?
Is he riding on his surfboard?
Yes.
Trunks.
Yes, and his little bat transistor radio playing bat surf music.
And the obvious reason why you should have Adam West as your Batman, his shark repellent spray.
Yes.
That'll really come in handy for you.
Yes.
All right, so how would your Batman, strategize with this game?
Well, I mean, he's Batman, obviously.
When all else fails, be Batman.
Exactly. That's his whole argument.
That's
He's
it.
Batman.
Okay, he's Batman.
He's the goddamn Batman.
All right.
He does everything the best. So is that's all you got? All right. The correct answer is Aquaman. Because number one, you don't have to worry about the whales or the sharks eating him because he controls them.
He's the best looking. I mean, what's that guy's name? That plays?
Jason Momoa or whatever.
Dude.
Yeah. So anyways, he's delicious looking and he can control all the sharks and the whales and whatever. Namor can't do that. He doesn't control things. Not, at least not in the comic books he does.
I'm going to Google sexy Namor.
And he also controls the sea serpents. Everything is his oyster. And so, yes, the correct answer, and don't give somebody else the points for this when you know in your heart of hearts it's Aquaman. It's the right answer.
Aquaman and Namor are essentially the Marvel and DC equivalent of each other.
But Aquaman is the better answer.
So I thought of this myself, and I'm not sure if I'm being clever or not, but I thought of the Silver Surfer because he could just surf all of his people off the island.
That's not bad, but it's no Aquaman.
I will give it to Anderson.
Yeah.
Right? I think he can control more of the forces.
That's true.
Rather than react to them. Although both Batman and Namor could probably react to things very well.
All right. Three-way tie going into question number 4.
Yeah, I have. The next game y'all are going to play is Jeopardy.
Okay.
So who would you be your contestant?
Oh, boy. And I already gave Reed Richards?
And are they going to be one of those people that's like ahead and then bets it all and loses? Okay. Are they going to come from behind and do double Jeopardies? And who is your Ken Jennings? Who's going to like sweep this shit up? Andrew's thinking. Chad's.
All right. I got it. Jay, you ready?
Yep.
All right.
Go ahead, buddy.
First, I gotta give it to Brainiac.
Oh, you beat Andrew to the punch. He evidently had Brainiac.
Yeah. No, he doesn't anymore.
I don't know anything about Brainiac, so somebody fill me in.
He's a living computer. His name is a portmanteau of the words brain and maniac. So that's all you need to know about him.
All right. Where does Brainiac appear?
He's a Superman villain.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's a Kryptonian computer. So, like, what better to be in a? I'll win it for JA over Chad at this point because I also had Brainiac. But yes, you'd want somebody that would have limitless knowledge. In fact, his whole shtick is to go out there and collect knowledge from throughout the cosmos.
But what does he do with it?
He just stores it.
He's evil, so he uses it for evil intent. So he would have no problem going for the jugular in a Jeopardy game. And he'd be that guy that figures out, I can risk this much and still win or lose, so that I'm not going to go all in on the final round.
Well, that's just math.
Yes, he's good at that, too.
Sometimes he looks like a giant robot, and sometimes he looks like a green dude.
Yes.
Oh.
All right. Okay. So, yeah, I think you should go with JA's Brainiac, because it was my answer, too.
All right, Chad, do you have a different answer?
I do have a different
answer. What is
answer.
that creepy guy?
Oh, that's also Brainiac.
Oh, that's...
So anyway, my answer is Oracle. I don't know if you know who Oracle is.
I would assume it's something to do with all-seeing.
Indeed.
Oh, so they could see the questions ahead of time?
So, Oracle actually originally was Batgirl. But after Batgirl was shot and paralyzed by the Joker, she instead devoted to becoming a information source for all the various superheroes. So she went from being a librarian to this information resource where all the heroes, including Batman and Robin and Nightwing, would contact Oracle to find out information on villains, on locations, on all these varied subjects. And if she didn't know the answer, she knew where to get the answer. And so she is as close as a human could come to knowing all you could know and being versatile and adept. And she would know all the things that Brainiac wouldn't know, all the little pop culture categories. That Brainiac
you are making some assumptions, sir. What am I winning for JA?
My question is, after she gives all these answers, does she then give them a cookie?
You know what? I like it because she's a chick.
There you go. Girl power.
Now, should we do one more? Because it's going to end up in a tie unless Chad gets it.
Let's go. It's 5 rounds, so let's see how those all shakes out.
And then we can have final Jeopardy.
Exactly, between the two winners. So let's see.
All right. Unless Chad just wins flat out, which is funny because I get to control this. Okay, the final game of the evening. The game of all games.
Okay.
Will you build houses or will you build hotels? Well, you have to build houses, then build hotels. Who is your champion Monopoly player?
Oh, boy. Well, there's only one answer to this one.
Well, we'll see. Do you buy properties right away? Do you go for the railroads?
All right, I got mine.
What about... Stop throwing stuff down and making noise.
Listen.
What about
This is the number one answer.
What about those utilities?
You don't mess around with the utilities. What, they're just like rule 10? I don't know. You're worthless. The railroads, that's where you make your money, and then you get the greens. Then you get the greens and the railroads, and then you build your empire from there. That's how you win Monopoly.
I like Marvin Gardner.
What about you, J.A.? What's your Monopoly strategy?
Well, obviously, we're talking superheroes. The only person you can be if you want to be competing in a game of Monopoly is the multiple man.
Ooh.
Because you could then clone yourself. You make multiple copies of yourself, and that just allows you to expand your reach around the board. Because Monopoly, regardless of what you're buying, is all about the act of purchasing as much properties as possible. So
I wonder if you have multiple clones of yourself, if each clone passes go, then you would quickly accumulate more money.
Exactly. Yes.
Wouldn't they be playing against each other?
Then because you're multiple man, you can also bring them all back into one. So you essentially divest yourself into multiple different corporations. You buy up all this property, and then you just conglomerize and bring it all.
Well, you're not competing against.
No,
yeah,
you're not.
Listen, you're forgetting one thing, sir. As a fan of multiple man, I should alert you to the fact that he is an idiot. Any long-term plan, he wouldn't have the wherewithal to stick with it. He would get distracted.
And that's why my answer should be the correct one, which is Scrooge McDuck. No.
Sorry, that really threw me off.
Because he is originally a comic book character. He originally appeared in the Donald Duck comic books that Carl Banks made. But Scrooge McDuck, who else but the richest duck in the world? The man that has a money bin, that has been tougher than the toughies and smarter than the smarties, that has actual literal monopolies throughout the world. The richest duck ever. Who else is going to be playing Monopoly other than Scrooge McDuck, and playing it right, playing it fair, playing it appropriately, not cheating, but knows how to build and accumulate wealth?
All right.
Scrooge McDuck.
So does Scrooge McDuck have the same properties as Scrooge?
The Christmas Carol?
No. Originally in the comic books, he was kind of like a miserly person, but nowadays the Scrooge McDuck is
he's the older grandfather.
He's a grandfather. He's a very parental. That's why
I was gonna say that Scrooge is a very thrifty, penny saver. That's how he got rich.
That's true. He makes shrewd business deals. Nothing to his disadvantage, but he won't make crooked business deals. Just shrewd ones. He's a shrewd investor.
All
Scrooge McDuck.
All right.
Listen, my character is not as shrewd. My character is sloppy. My character is less of an idiot than Multiple Man, but smart enough to know his way around both business transactions and superheroics. My character is Tony Stark, Iron Man. Billionaire industrialist. He's capable of buying and controlling industries. He's capable of manipulating people in the government to help him achieve his goals. He's also not as moral as Scrooge McDuck, and able to use those amoral abilities to accomplish his goals from time to time when it's necessarily called upon. He is the Iron Man. He is the one for this iron age of industrialism. He is the one who is the right man for this job. And plus, Robert Downey Jr. is really handsome.
He is.
Your kids love Scrooge McDuck.
I'm not playing to the kids.
Literally.
I don't know. You know what? Lots of people, come up with house rules for Monopoly and stuff, and so I feel like that's kind of what Tony Stark would do. So, Chad wins.
Wow! I think you are biased.
Against
the only one that I got was the one that was like a no-brainer.
Chad told the best stories.
Scrooge McDuck. If you're a fan out there of this podcast and a fan of Scrooge McDuck, leave comments about how Nicole got it wrong. I'm just saying. I would even take a multiple man over
You know
that.
what? You can repost.
I'm still angry about the Brainiac. I thought Brainiac was a lock.
I agree. You had two people say Brainiac, and then he comes in with, I don't even know what. Oracle? You never even heard of it. Oh, but she's a whatever, dude.
Well, don't make me a judge next time, then.
You're a cute judge. You're an all right judge.
Well, you feel free to post the questions and your guys' response on Twitter. We'll see how the audience reacts and see who they would pick as the winner.
That concludes archival retrieval protocols.
Cool. I just got my socks folded, so I'll be getting out of your hair.
Query. Sensors indicate deadbolt recently installed by 1J. Andrew Scott. Presence of Michael would concludes breaking and entering occurred. Should this unit alert proper authorities?
No. Let's call it breaking and entertaining instead. I mean, most of the fans have never heard this week's book review, so we performed a public service.
Conjecture. If what you say is true, please complete standard show ending to avoid this unit from contacting police.
Whoa, okay. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Last Comic Shop podcast. Make sure to rate and review and subscribe over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com and check out more of our past shows like this week's. As you've heard, our shows are evergreen, so even years later you can enjoy these reviews of books like Giant Days. Make sure you're also following us on all those social media platforms, checking out our merch store for potential Christmas gifts for all of the comic book fans in your life, and visiting your local comic book shop for even more fantastic books that we can all be thankful for. So, until next week, when hopefully Andy, Chad, and J.A. will be back to deal with the temperamental computer overlords, I'm Mikey Wood, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Will that work?
Ending sufficient. Happy Turkey Day, Mr. Wood.
Thanks. You know, have you ever watched Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey?
The Last Comic Shop was a 2023 Black Angus production.